Welcome, everyone, to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something pretty wild. It's a hidden phenomenon happening right under our noses. We are going to look at how these tiny, seemingly totally harmless micro habits that you and I do literally every single day are actively reshaping and, frankly, quietly destroying our overall cognitive potential. Okay, let's dive into this. So, is your brain getting weaker? We usually treat cognitive decline like it's this really distant long-term risk, something to worry about way down the road when we're older, right? But the reality? It is immediate. This decline is actively driven by our daily mundane actions. How you manage your workflow, or even just how you chose to unwind this very morning, is playing a direct, real-time role in whether your brain is strengthening or quietly weakening right this second. To get a handle on this mental drain, here's exactly what we're going to unpack today. 1. How your brain is constantly changing. 2. The short-form content trap. 3. Why sleep is absolutely not optional. 4. The whole myth of multitasking. And 5. How you can actually subtract to get smarter. All right, starting with part 1, your brain is changing. This is all about the baseline of cognitive plasticity. And this brilliantly illustrates the fundamental truth you need to understand right out of the gate. Your brain is never just static. It's this highly adaptable, constantly molding organ, kind of like a giant piece of clay. Every single day, your habits are actively pushing it in one of two very distinct directions. On the left, you got habits that improve things, building your focus, enhancing your memory, and sharpening your intelligence. But on the right, you have habits that are quietly damaging those exact same abilities. Essentially, you're either moving forward or you're moving backward. There's literally no neutral gear here. Moving right along to section 2, the short-form content trap. This is our very first silent thief, the ultimate attention hijacker. Think about what actually happens inside your head when you jump online. I mean, we all know that feeling, right? Innocent minutes just morphing into a completely lost hour. When you're scrolling, every single swipe brings this rapid hit of dopamine. A funny clip, a shocking headline, swipe, swipe, your brain is just getting flooded with rapid-fire stimulation. But then, because you've essentially trained your brain for this chaotic, breakneck speed, notice how activities that actually require deep focus, like sitting down to patiently read a dense book or studying a complex concept, suddenly feel incredibly difficult. Almost painful, really. The source material puts this perfectly, noting that your mind begins expecting entertainment every few seconds. Just let the gravity of that sink in for a second. When your attention is that scattered and your brain is literally craving its next tiny hit of dopamine, staying focused on just one single task becomes an agonizing challenge. And look, if you can't focus, your ability to learn deeply and actually solve complex problems, it practically evaporates into thin air. All right, let's look at section 3. Sleep is not optional. This is the ultimate recovery saboteur. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it frames what our brains are actually up to at night. In our modern hustle culture, we so often treat sleep like it's some sort of luxury we can just sacrifice for productivity, right? Like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. But look at what your brain is doing when you finally close your eyes. It is not just passively resting. It is in an intense, highly active period. It's actively processing vast amounts of information. It's meticulously organizing your memories, and it's physically recovering from the day's mental demands. It is doing all the heavy lifting while you are out cold. So what exactly happens when you cut that vital process short? Well, you pay an immediate, and I mean severe, cognitive penalty. When you consistently lack proper rest, your thinking literally becomes slower. It's wild. You're going to find it way harder to recall basic details, harder to stay focused in long meetings, and so much harder to make good decisions. Tasks that normally feel entirely effortless suddenly require a massive amount of mental exertion, simply because your brain is running on fumes. And that right there is exactly why top performers zealously protect their sleep schedules. They understand a fundamental secret that a lot of us just tend to ignore. Peak mental performance doesn't just come from working harder and pushing through. It depends entirely on proper recovery. You simply cannot perform at a high cognitive level if your biological hardware hasn't been given the time it desperately needs to repair itself. No way around it. Building on that idea of scattered focus, we arrive at section 4, the myth of multitasking. Talk about a major focus fracturer. Look, we all do it. Watching videos while trying to study, jumping back and forth between a dozen browser tabs, or, checking messages while you're trying to write an email. It kind of feels productive in the moment, but you aren't actually doing multiple things at once. Instead, you are paying what's called a mental cost. This is the hidden tax of time and energy required to literally refocus your brain every single time it shifts attention. The more you interrupt yourself, the faster you drain that mental energy reserve, making it exponentially harder to actually get anything meaningful done. If you are constantly interrupting yourself by juggling tasks, it becomes nearly impossible to enter a state of deep concentration. And as the source material highlights, deep concentration is the state where real learning, creativity, and problem-solving actually happen. People who ruthlessly protect their attention, the ones who focus deeply for long, uninterrupted periods, they possess a massive advantage in today's super distracted world. They're actually allowing their brains to do the profound, complex work without constantly fracturing their focus into a million little pieces. Finally, we hit section 5, subtract to get smarter. So the crucial point is this. If you want a sharper mind, it's a total paradigm shift. You don't need to go looking for new brain training tricks or some expensive supplement. You just need to start removing the destructive habits. And here is how we do that. True improvement starts with this concrete 3-step action plan to stop your brain from getting weaker. Step 1, cut back on the endless scrolling that's scattering your attention, and frankly, train yourself to tolerate a little boredom again. Step 2, prioritize your sleep for true biological recovery. And step 3, kill the multitasking myth once and for all by giving your full, undivided attention to just one single task at a time. The great news? You absolutely have the power to stop this invisible decline of your cognitive potential, and it literally starts today with your very next action. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to really chew on. Looking at your own daily routine right now, which of these 3 habits will you eliminate first? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this structured look empowered you and helped you visualize exactly what's going on inside your head. I can't wait to see you next time as we continue to unpack the ideas that shape our world.